This is John for John's Beat. Today I have the pleasure of being on the beat with John Cosper, author, wrestling historian. Let's get into it, John. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's always good to talk with you because you cover such a wide range. You got awesome books, not only on wrestling, and we'll get to all that, but you are a wrestling historian. Let's jump into it. What is the latest happening in your world of wrestling?
Well, say the my third book, my third historical biography about women's wrestling from that golden era is now out. The Great and Inimitable June Byers is now available on Amazon. It's also available on eatsleepwrestle.com. For those who are like, who's June Byers? Well, she's the lady that Fabulous Moolah always said, I beat June Byers to win my championship. I beat the women's world champion, everything like that. Moolah started saying that back in 1955, less than a year after June controversially won the title from Mildred Burke. We obviously can't say that June won it clean from Mildred Burke, but at least June wrestled Mildred Burke for the title and got a single pinfall out of the two she was supposed to get. The Fabulous Moolah never wrestled June Byers for the title. She did wrestle June Byers. They wrestled it back in the late 40s for the brief time when Lillian Ellison was working for Billy Wolf, and she did get a couple of pins on June Byers at that time, but she never beat June Byers, the champion. June Byers actually carried that title for almost 10 years. She retired on January 1st, 1964. She was still a champion. Now, that's not the way you're supposed to go out. You're supposed to go out on your back. I got to see the great Larry D, legendary Larry D, do that not too long ago in Cynthiana, Kentucky. His family came in the ring. He left his boots in the ring after he lost to Moose in his hometown in front of a sold out crowd in Cynthiana. It was a fantastic show with Generation Next Wrestling. That's how you're supposed to go out. That's not how June went out. June went out as a champion, but June was the champion between Mildred Burke and the Fabulous Moolah. She was the torchbearer for Billy Wolf very briefly, and then after marrying Sam Menaker, Sam kind of took over her bookings. She kind of went off on her own. It was kind of a decline period for women's wrestling. It certainly became up for grabs at that point. Jack Pfeffer, was in there with his women, with the Lady Angel and some of the others that he booked and everything, and trying to take control of it. And ultimately, thanks in part to Vince McMahon Sr., the Fabulous Moolah wrestled control of things. She, seized power, and in some ways, people say she was worse than Billy Wolf in the way she treated the girls that worked for her. Princess Victoria will certainly tell you that. But June was she grew up in Houston, Texas. She went to the matches. She started getting in the ring with some of the boys, learning how to do it. Somebody brought her to the attention of Billy Wolf. Billy brought her to Columbus, Ohio, made her part of the troupe. June was known for being a hard hitter, and actually, I've kind of come to find out a lot of these ladies were. I got to talk to Belle Starr, and I don't know if I've told the story to your show or not, but Belle was she was in the car with Mars Bennett when Mars Bennett had her tragic car accident. Mars, of course, passed away. Belle went through the windshield and sustained serious injuries, woke up in the hospital. That's when she found out Mars had passed away. But she and the other gentleman who were in the car both survived the accident. But when I was talking to Belle on the phone, Belle's in her mid 80s at this point. I brought up the name Elvira Snodgrass, another lady that I wrote a book about, and she started laughing. And she's like, "Oh, Elvira beat the hell out of me." So, but Elvira was she was used by Billy Wolf. Any new girl she would get on the road, would be put on the road with Elvira. Elvira would show her the ropes. Elvira would certainly give him some licks. Mae Young did the same. There's a story in June Byers' book about one girl that I guess kind of crossed Mae in the ring, and it hit Mae a little too hard, and Mae made her pay for it, and the girl ultimately ended up quitting wrestling. And June was the same way, if you've seen Lipstick and Dynamite, the documentary, and there's some things I can say about that as to how the story of that documentary is not the full story that the ladies told. It's the story the documentarian wanted, and to a certain extent, the story that the Fabulous Moolah wanted told. But um, yeah, but I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought here. We're going so many different directions, but getting back to Ella Waldeck, Ella Waldeck will tell you how unnecessary it was for June to be that rough at her, because June was known, she had a very hard chest chop, not unlike Wahoo McDaniel or Ric Flair's. It was just what she was known for, and she liked to hit you, and she liked to hit, it was, kind of the way Jesse Goddard describes working with Drew McIntyre to me. You get in the ring with Drew, you know you've been in a fight. It definitely feels like you've been in a real fight, and
Right.
that's because that's who Drew is or whatever, and that's who June was, and that's how Elvira was, and I would say you could probably logically say that's Gladys Gillum and Mae Young and Mildred Burke, that whole group of those ladies. That's who they were, and that's how they wanted to work was working a little bit stiff, just knowing, making sure you know that they're there. But she worked hard. Did she curry favor with Billy Wolf like a lot of the other ladies did? In the evenings, most likely. And her family will admit, yeah, she probably, did and everything. But, it was, an unfortunate part of moving up in the business. And she, I mean, this was their opportunity to be something more than just a housewife or a farmer's wife, and to do something. And June got to wear the furs, and she got to wear the diamonds and the jewels, and move up in the world, and become a celebrity, and a lot of the other ladies too. That's something I learned from, actually not from I don't know this. I don't think this came from June's granddaughters. I think it came from talking to Billy Wolf's granddaughters, and I'm talking the Billy Wolf. Got to talk to two of his granddaughters while writing this book, but they got to know Penny Banner before she passed away, and Penny's story about Billy was like, look, Billy took us out of poverty. Billy gave us a new life. Billy gave us a new opportunity. Um, Kim Goodwin Martin, who is she's the daughter of Babs Wingo. No, I'm going to say it. No, not Marva Scott. I'm sorry. Babs was her aunt. Those ladies, Marva Scott, Babs, and Barbara. I'm going to say her name wrong. And Ethel Johnson. I'm sorry. So many names floating around in my head, but the three African American sisters that came up in the business and took different names, so you didn't know that they were sisters in the ring with each other. They'll tell you the same thing. Billy gave us an opportunity. Billy took us out of poverty. Billy was our way to a better life for our families. For us, for our children, for our grandchildren. Our families have the lives they have because of this opportunity. So, and in talking to and this is all I can't vouch for 100% for one thing or the other, but in talking to Billy Wolf's granddaughters and writing this book, kind of their take is, number one, Billy was not as rich as he put out, that he was. Were the diamonds real? Most likely. The jewels and everything like that, in the fancy car, that was definitely a fancy car he was driving around in. Could he afford it? Maybe not. So they say they've seen the books, and was Billy taking more from the ladies than he should have? Yeah, he was taking a good chunk, but Billy was a show, just like Mildred was a show, and it was putting on a show of how much money you had, not necessarily actually having that money, and certainly, history is written by those, not only the victors, but those who survive it, and the folks that were still around when Lipstick and Dynamite was made, had one story and one agenda to tell, particularly the Fabulous Moolah, about who Billy Wolf was and everything like that. And, I mean, I'm not casting any doubts whatsoever, that Billy was not, the most up and up person, and treated women with respect and everything. No, he certainly took advantage of his position, um, you know, to an extreme extent. But there was positive in what happened. It was an opportunity. I mean, these women became feminist icons. And this was, again, their opportunity to do something with their lives other than just, working in the kitchen and pumping out children. So,
Sure.
but yeah, it's a fascinating area. It's an interesting class of ladies. Just and every story that I dig into, I find other stories that I love to explore. Ada Ash is one that I find very fascinating. She and her husband Al Saz. Not only were wrestlers, they worked in the circuses. They did a strongman act. They had a menagerie of animals. They both wrestled alligators in the ring. They had a boxing kangaroo. They had wrestling bears. I mean, these were interesting people. You just every story I dig into is fascinating, and one's led to another. Bluegrass Brawlers led me to Elvira Snodgrass. Elvira Snodgrass led me to Mars Bennett. Mars Bennett really changed my attitude about June Byers. I coming into this and in my early research and everything, I read Queen of the Ring by Jeff Lee, an absolute must read if you're a wrestling fan, if you love this old era. Just did a phenomenal job telling the story of Mildred Burke, starting with her unpublished autobiography and kind of building off of that. Um, And I mean, just an amazing, incredible lady. They filmed. I don't know if you know this or not. They actually filmed a biopic about her in Louisville over the
Really?
summer, and they were able to get it done. You know, even after the strike started, they managed to get a waiver from SAG and be able to finish up photography here in town. I got to see the great Walter Goggins working in a wrestling ring as Jack Pfeffer, which was really cool. And got to see, Elvira Snodgrass brought to life and June Byers brought to life. And the Black Panther, Jim Mitchell, is in the movie. Khalid Greenway, wonderful actor I've gotten to know, just on the side, just out of our mutual love for who Jim Mitchell was. Seeing him in costume come walking out, drop that robe and go racing to the ring to face Gorgeous George. That was a really cool moment, man. But yeah, yeah. Anyways, I'm again, there's another sidetrack diversion here, but now Mars Bennett kind of changed my attitude about June because I really saw June as as she's been portrayed, particularly the Mildred Burke story. She's the villain. If you when you see the movie, the Mildred Burke movie, she's going to be the villain. She is the one that took Mildred's place. And for those who don't know, Mildred was a champion for almost 2 decades. What happened was she and Billy Wolf, who controlled women's wrestling, they had a divorce. They had a dispute over who was a champion. Billy held a tournament in 1953. He was going to crown Nell Stewart as the champion. And then when Mildred Burke sent a telegram to Baltimore, the Baltimore newspaper where the tournament was being held, congratulating Nell Stewart for winning a day before the tournament. That's when they flipped it and they decided to make June the champion. And then a year later, they finally got June and Mildred in the ring. They were going to sell it. It was going to be, by all accounts, it was going to be a real shoot to go to two falls. And none of the fans and audience knew this. They were expecting their usual slam bang action, and what they got was a lot of grunting and groaning on the mat. They got Mildred, she had a bad knee. June was able to get one pinfall, and then after 40 more minutes of wrestling, they called it. And without getting that second pinfall, Billy and the NWA and all of his allies took off and said, June's now the champion, and Mildred kind of got left out. So, don't know that she's not Vader in this circumstance. She's more, Darth Maul to the Emperor from Menace, but I mean, June was, taking advantage of the opportunity the same as Nell would have, same as Mae Young would have, and any other of the women who were in that position, was if somebody had to carry the torch, somebody had to carry on the business. And, it did just kind of how it turned out. But, again, I saw June as a villain. She was the usurper. Mildred's the real champion. But, June and Mars had a special relationship. They were good friends, and there was a set of photos in particular of June Byers and her son Billy with Mars Bennett, on vacation at the Aquacade where Mars's mother had worked for a while, and just hanging out and just seeing a different side of her, and kind of changed my mind on her, And it was, I kind of feel like, it would, I've given thought to somebody who does need to do a more in-depth biography on the fabulous Moolah than the very kayfabe autobiography she published through the WWF. And I'm not the guy to do that because I think you have to be able to have some empathy for whoever you're writing about. And at least at this point in my life, I'm not saying I couldn't do it down the road, but it would be hard to be objective and step back from some of the stories that I know about Moolah and some of the things that she did to some of the girls. But, and I'm not just talking about, the more recent ones like Victoria, but I mean,
Right.
when I talked to Belle Starr, Bell's like, yeah, I wasn't going to work for Moolah. I never would have worked for that woman. And so, and Belle, it hampered Belle's career because she wasn't, working for Moolah because Moolah was who you got booked with if you wanted to go bigger. But, just, you have to have empathy for your subject. And once I had that, then I was like, you know what? Somebody does need to tell June's story. Moolah's told her story, in 1,000 times. She was given that platform by WWE to rewrite history, and then, the opportunity is now there for folks like me, for folks like Jeff, who have access now to as more and more newspaper archives come online, and as more and more things turn up in people's attics and basements and things like that, the opportunity to tell the real story. Again, these stories are told oftentimes by the people who survive it. By the time Lipstick and Dynamite came around, Mildred Burke was long gone. June Byers was long gone. June barely gets mentioned in Lipstick and Dynamite. Elvira Snodgrass doesn't get mentioned at all. Mars Bennett gets mentioned. I don't know how Mars Bennett got mentioned, how that, but anyway, I think it was because some folks had a fondness for her. But I'm not sure how Elvira wasn't even mentioned at all. And again, June gets short shrift, and it's all about that film was definitely all about, reducing, who Mildred Burke was and elevating who Moolah was. But it's not to denigrate the accomplishments that Moolah did or anything like that or anything like that. But there's two sides that there's multifacets to every story, and it's important that all those stories get out there, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been a real pleasure to dig into June's story, to talk to her grandkids, to get to know the family. And I will tell you too, Billy Wolf's granddaughters was an interesting conversation as well. And I've got an article that I hope to get published through Slam or possibly through my website that's a more in-depth about Billy's son, G. Bill Wolf, who married Betsy Ross, who was another very, very young wrestler. G. Bill joined AA. He became a born-again Christian. He got his life straight. Turned out to be a wonderful father for the 10 years that he lived on. He was a traveling salesman, completely got out of the wrestling business, turned his life around, was a man of prayer, was a man of deep faith, that really has passed on. I mean, it's passing on to a fourth generation now. Every now and then if I'm at a convenience store, I'll pick up a Squirt. Have you ever had Squirt?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Grapefruit soda. That was
Yeah.
Gino's drink of choice. He would
Okay.
go on a Friday, he would have a bottle of Squirt. He would sit, his daughter would sit in his lap, and just what a wonderful, loving and wonderful man he turned out to be after he was able to, get away from his dad. And, well, not to say get away from his dad, he still had a close relationship with his dad. And, the oldest granddaughter talked about sitting in Billy Wolf's chair in Billy Wolf's office and spinning around in the chair and at the desk and everything. And even some sweet memories of him as well. But, again, there's different sides to every story. And, it's important that we're able to step back and, take an objective angle and make sure that other people's voices are heard and other stories are told.
Well, that's the thing I really like about your books, because obviously and you've done the research, and I don't know. I've learned so much from your books, and like you said, it's not like the whitewash version of, like the WWE books. No
Mm.
disrespect to them. They've got their story. They stick to it. But yeah, I like your books because it's the reality of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
But
curious. See, I'm curious to know with them being under new ownership, how their narratives about the past will change. I mean, there's a lot to be desired in the way they've presented wrestling history and the stories of certain wrestlers, and the way they've gone about doing. Of course, with their Hall of Fame for many years, it was only wrestlers that were in the WWE, and then
yeah,
for a couple years they were doing the legacy inductions, and that's how Mildred Burke and June Byers and Wahoo McDaniel and Bruiser Brody and guys like that were honored and inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. But the negative side of that doesn't get publicized enough. And I should throw Ethel Johnson in here as well. When they put Ethel Johnson in the WWE Hall of Fame, Wahoo McDaniel, Bruiser Brody, June Byers, guess who wasn't contacted? Guess who found out about it from television? Some of them after the fact never even got an invite. The families. Karen McDaniel was not invited to come, and except for Wahoo. Barbara Goodish was not invited to, except for Bruiser Brody. And I don't know if it's just lack of interest in reaching out to them. They're just trying to save money. They just don't care, or they were just rubber stamping them through. But I think we might see that change a little bit. There's a lot that's changing culturally with WWE. Not going to name names, but some folks I've talked to say it is a much different working environment with Triple H and Shawn Michaels in control backstage than Vince McMahon. Now, if you're a fan of the Attitude Era and you're thinking Attitude Era Triple H and Shawn Michaels, that might not be a great thing. But these are older guys. These are family men now. They're more mature. They're a little more grown up. And Triple H, everything that I've seen of what he does, how he ran NXT, and how he seems to approach things, and what I've heard from people who work with him directly, he's good. He's not only good at booking stories, he's great at working with talent. You see all these people that left under Vince near the end, and they were even left when Vince came back in the interim or whatever. As soon as Vince is out of the picture and Triple H is back in, I want back in. They re-signed.
yeah.
They're signed back on to work with this guy. Um, I'm deeply impressed with the kind of businessman and the kind of promoter that Triple H has become. I think he's definitely the right guy to be there, running that business and doing right by the people. As I saw just the other day, I mean, the first time in WWE history, they've got this week off.
I
They
was
get
going to bring that up.
over
Yeah, yeah,
Christmas, you know. I mean, and that's yeah, that's something that's never in the history of the wrestling business. I mean, Wahoo never got to have a Christmas at home.
right.
That Ric Flair never got to have a Christmas at home, and that wasn't working for WWE. It was working for whoever promotion because
Yeah.
you have a Christmas night show, you have a Thanksgiving night show, you have a New Year's Eve show. They were just constantly on there. That was Christmas was a big show day,
Oh,
so
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
wonderful they have the time off.
Yeah, who would have thought looking back at the time when Triple H and Shawn were doing all that stuff, who would have eventually figured they would be the leaders and actually seemingly good leaders.
Very, very good at it. Yeah, very good at
Behind the
what they
scenes.
do. Yeah. So, I'll tell you, it's funny. I've had a realization a couple months ago. I don't watch WWE, and it's certainly not because I'm a WWE hater. Yeah, I've been to a live show in the last year, and I'll catch the big pay-per-views. I will definitely watch the Royal Rumble. I'll watch WrestleMania and keep up to some degree with what's going on, and even with AEW. I mean, and part of it is I don't have cable. If I want to watch AEW, I'll go to Planet Fitness on Wednesday night. I used to do that every week, and I don't as much anymore. Um, our brains only have so much capacity, and the last year and a half, Ohio Valley Wrestling in Louisville has kind of become my beat. And of course, Ohio Valley Wrestling very much moving into a spotlight right now, thanks to Netflix and all kinds of business deals that are happening. They got a new venture capital investor that came on board a week or two ago. Had an announcement this week about the unit, which is an online gaming and gambling and sports betting and gaming app that they're going to be partnering with to create some new content. They're serious. They want better TV coverage. They're going to go on a national tour. They're trying to grow that. And you look at that and you go, yeah, right. It's a Louisville, Kentucky promotion. It's a wrestling school. It's not a wrestling school anymore. I mean, it's a legit territory. It's 20-year veterans that are headlining things and stuff like that. It's guys that know how to do business. Real One Enzo Amore was there 2 weeks ago as a guest referee, and the way that scrum ended, he's not done at OVW. Last week during Ryan Von Rocket's match, Aaron Stevens, aka Damian Sandow, comes walking out on the ramp in full costume, and he's watching and taking notes. I mean, it was inevitable he was going to show up. He lives here.
Sure.
And then right after he leaves and that match is over, the Videotron comes on. Mick Foley's coming to town January 6th for the
Oh,
Nightmare
that's
Rumble. Mick Foley's going to be back at OVW. I mean, folks want to be there, and part of it is, if you saw the Netflix doc, there's on the seventh episode, Diamond Dallas Page telling Al Snow, it's like, I only work for people I want to work for, and for people that I like, and everybody likes Al. Al Snow does a fantastic job. Al is an old-fashioned booker. Al's an old-fashioned storyteller and pro wrestling teacher. He's assembled an incredible staff. Cash Flow's teaching your beginner class. Tony Gunn's teaching your intermediate. Doug Basham's teaching your advanced class. Folks just want to work with them, and they want to be part of what's going on. And I've talked to a lot of the wrestlers, on the record and off the record, would they take a WWE contract with an AEW contract? Yeah. They're not in a rush to do it though, because
right,
some
right.
of them are
Yeah,
like, I want to see where this is going. I want to see where this rides out because, just like a couple years ago, MJF, Jungle Boy, not Jungle Boy so much anymore, Sammy Guevara, all the young guys, Darby Allin that signed on with AEW, that was their chance to come in, ground up, and be homegrown stars. And, I mean, for guys like Luke Curtis, for guys like Cal Hero, Will Austin, Shalonce Royale, Haley J, all these incredible talents, Layla Gray, Tiffany Nieves. My gosh, yeah, Tiffany wasn't even featured in the documentary. She's on front and center on all the NWA posters right now.
yeah,
Which is great. And the Outrunners didn't need the documentary. The Outrunners are out there working for ROH, they're working for AEW, they're working for NWA. Are they jobbing out most of the time? Yeah, they're getting paid. They're putting on a show. People know who the Outrunners are.
absolutely.
And I remember sitting in the crowd in Lexington when AEW had their debut show last spring in Lexington, Kentucky. It was the night of the Briscoe Memorial Show. And they come out, they work a dark match, and all around me, people are like, "Who are these guys? Who do they think they are?" But they're laughing and they're following. It's like because the Outrunners have got it. I mean, they've got the right gimmick at the right time. So, um, Oh, that was a fun place. It's a fun place. It's great to see the changes happening. I didn't think they had any way to get more capacity in that building, but somehow I was in there a week and a half ago, and they've shifted the seats around. They've moved things back a little more. The front's opened up so they can have more gimmick tables. It's and the new video screens. They got the 4 screen video screen instead of just 2 tiny video screens on either side of the entrance ramp. They found more room in that building, so it's it's really cool to see that happening for all those folks over there. They work so hard, and my gosh, when Al took it over, it was on life support.
Yeah.
And every time I go there, and it's not just seeing those big changes, but and I think we may have talked about this before. I've known Isaiah for about 10 years now,
Yeah.
who of
Good
course
dude.
was an IWA original, started at 15, training with Cash Flow, coming up with Madman Pondo and all those guys at IWA Mid-South. One of those guys you never ever in your life, if you grew up in this area, thought would ever be in an OVW ring. I'll tell you, every time I've seen Isaiah in an OVW ring, he's a different guy, and he's just changing and changing and changing. And one guy I'm really excited to see over there now, Shane Mercer, is working for
Oh
OVW.
gosh. Oh man.
Shane Mercer had a match with Jesse Goddard a couple weeks ago. Shane Mercer's, last week was in the ring with they got bundles. Um, and now I will say Shane did not finish the match with the moonsault and battery. That did not surprise me either. If you haven't seen the moonsault and battery, go out there and look it up on Instagram.
Yeah.
Shane Mercer, pound for pound, strongest guy in the Indies. He does this. He can do this move to Congo Kong. He can do it to anybody. He's a freak of nature. But he didn't do his big moonsault and battery, and I'm not surprised because I'm sure the first thing Al said is like, "You're not doing that big giant crazy move every single match. You're going to save that for a pay-per-view." He teased it in the Jesse Goddard's match. It's like, there's no way Jesse's going to take that, and he didn't. But it's the most exciting, aerobatic, devastating power move, power aerial move I've ever seen. But it's really cool to see Shane in there and getting that spotlight. I don't know anybody, no, well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know anybody more deserving. I would put Aaron Williams and Gary J and Lufisto in that same category as somebody deserving of a national spotlight and a major contract. But Shane's right up there with those guys.
He's a good dude. I've known him for about 10 years. I saw him and his improvement in the ring. I mean, he was good when I saw him 10 years ago, but his improvement in the ring and especially like what he's doing right now is it's so cool to see. Such a
Yeah.
nice guy, such a great guy too. Shane's a good
Oh
dude.
yeah. Humble guy, really, really nice and a great guy to work with as a promoter and also as a wrestler. Funny side story on that. My daughter's had her Sweet 16 party and was wanting a breakfast at Tiffany's black and white themed. And I have these 2 black and white tablecloths that I use when I go out to shows and everything like that for my book table. And I said, I've got the tablecloths, so we'll just use my tablecloths. And both my wife and my daughter were both like, so it's probably going to get messy and have spaghetti on it, stuff like that. Are you okay with that? I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's been worse. I'm like, what do you mean? Don't worry about it. It's like, what do you mean? Well, how has it been worse? It's like, might have had Shane Mercer's blood on it at some point. So they're like, what? It's been washed. Okay. I
Oh yeah.
washed it all on its own. You never knew about it. It went through on the hot cycle. It's clean. Okay.
Well, sometime you might put it up on eBay then if they had changed blood once you make the mystery.
So I got certain things. I have I won't tell that story because I might still be able to do something with it one day. But no, well, and yeah,
Leave that for next time.
I've got a banner that has seen better days for my because Masha Slamovich got thrown right through. I mean, it was either Masha or Mickey Knuckles, one or the other. So.
Too good.
Still one of my favorite guys, folks. If you haven't seen Mickey Knuckles live, if you're an indie fan, you haven't seen Mickey Knuckles live. That was one of the funniest because they're going back and forth, and Masha's just cussing and screaming at Mickey in Russian, and Mickey at one point just grabs her by the hair. I can't understand what you're saying, bitch.
That's Mickey. I
Mickey,
Mickey from way back too.
always a show. So,
John,
yeah,
before I let you go, and I'm gonna bring you back on to talk about your other books. But
sure,
let's wrap this one up with you telling everybody where they can find out more information about your wrestling books.
Absolutely. You can go to eatsleepwrestle.com. That's my wrestling website. The June Byers book is out now. I will say, as soon as we got one thing we're waiting on to finish it up. Jesse Goddard's autobiography is coming right behind it. Should be out in January. If you're not familiar with Jesse Goddard's, Jesse kind of came in the national spotlight during Big Brother season 10. He came back Big Brother season 11. He has been brought back more than any other house guest as a surprise, running, games or making cameo appearances. He had a cameo appearance on this past season of Big Brother where, it was him writing. They had this video montage. It wasn't him personally, but you heard his voice where he was writing love letters to himself. He's Mr. Spectacular. Has one of the most arrogant, easy to hate heel characters, in all of wrestling. Had a great run as the Bromans with Robbie E and TNA Wrestling. So he's worked for a couple others here and there. He's had some great, opportunities with TV and streaming and things like that, acting and everything. And Jesse gets all these opportunities. He became the face of OVW when Al Snow took over because he is nothing in the world like Mr. Spectacular. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He's one of the hardest working guys you'll ever meet. Very adept businessman, very smart guy, very humble. His acknowledgement page is in section in the book at the very end. I think we're up to 9 pages. And it's because we're not just thanking everybody who helped with the book, we're thanking everybody who's helped him in his career from day one. Just a very great, he's listened to Arnold Schwarzenegger on a podcast recently talking about every self-made man is a self-made man because of the million people that supported him. And Jesse's the embodiment of that. Just has been a fantastic guy to work with, has a really great story, a really, really great heart. And a lot of love for wrestling, a lot of love for OVW. Very grateful for every opportunity he's had. Proud to be part of that OVW roster, proud to have been part of Netflix Wrestlers. So if you're a wrestling fan or Big Brother fan, my wife's got some friends who are not wrestling fans, but they're big Big Brother fans. They're like, we want copies of that book. So definitely be looking for that in January. Like I said, June Byers' book is out. Elvira Snodgrass, Mars Bennett. If you like June's book, you got to read those. The Black Panther, Jim Mitchell. My 2 books on Louisville wrestling, Louisville's Greatest Show, Bluegrass Brawlers, biographies of Wahoo McDaniel, Princess Victoria, Madman Pondo, Scott Romer, JJ McGuire, Tracy Smothers, Chris Candido. It's all available on eatsleepwrestle.com.
Check out eatsleepwrestle.com and come back here because we are going to be talking in the next interview. We'll be talking about John's other books, equally as fascinating. John, thank you for your time and have a
Pleasure,
great
man.
holiday season, buddy.
Good talking to you, man.